watching me from the depths below, a haunted grave where shadows grow. Deadpit is watching me with eyes so cold, they're watching me now.
Ho, 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 everybody, and welcome back. It's episode 5. It's DEADPIT is watching, and we're going to talk about some movies that we have been watching over the last week, 2 weeks or so. And since it's Christmas time, this is the Christmas-themed episode. There's a couple of wintry horror or Christmas movies that we're going to be talking about tonight, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it, ain't you, Uncle Bill?
Yeah, it's gonna fucking kick dick.
The first one we're taking a look at, that's another stacked episode. I don't know how many movies we're watching, like 7 or something.
20, 25.
Might as well. The first one up, though, from our good friends over at Synapse Films. I was very curious about this, Uncle Bill, when I heard about it, because Synapse, they don't release a whole lot of stuff, but when they do release something, if something independent sort of movie, I'm curious what in the hell's going on, because this is Infinite Santa 8000. It's a Blu-ray disc release. It came out recently from our good friends over at Synapse Films, and it is an animated Christmas affair. Picture if Mad Max was Santa Claus, and that's what you got with Infinite Santa 3000. It's a very violent, hand-drawn animation movie. It's originally a web series, and I'd never heard of it. I'm not going to lie.
Me either.
And I think most people that received this to review didn't even fucking review it. I mean, I'm not surprised. There's only like maybe 1 or 2 other reviews for it on YouTube, but I'm happy to say that DEADPIT is one of those that is reviewing it just in time for the holidays. You're sick of watching Silent Night, Deadly Night, or Black Christmas, or Christmas Evil, or To All a Good Night, or whatever else. You've watched those a gazillion times. You want something new? Well, this is definitely that. Infinite Santa 8000.
Infinite Santa.
It is set in the year set in the year 8000. Uncle Bill, can you imagine that?
No.
8,000.
In the year 8000.
So that's, what is it, over 5,000 years from now in the future, Uncle Bill.
Yeah.
So it's a post-apocalyptic society that Santa is fighting in, and one of his comrades that stays in Santa's house, whatever they call it is, I don't know.
The North Pole.
He don't have the North Pole.
The
North Pole is gone. I think Santa's got like
a melted.
Yeah, he stakes claim on like an old Holiday Inn or something. And it's Santa's house. I don't know.
It's the Alpike. Don't worry about it.
His friend Martha is kidnapped by the evil bastard Dr. Shackleton, and now it is up to Santa, the futuristic Santa, to wade his way through with the robot reindeers. He's going to take out all the other robots and demons and minions and shit. There's a lot of violence in this. It is all animated, if I didn't mention that. And for fans of animation, you will clearly get a kick out of it. A lot of hard work was put into it. This is actually from 2013. And the web series, I think, started in 2010, from what I can hear. It's very well made. I'll give it that. It's professionally done and everything. The transfer on this is fantastic. Is it a movie for me? No. It's just not for me. It really not. I think it's catering more to fans of manga and anime and stuff like that. If you're into that sort of thing, Infinite Santa 8000 is where you want to go, but there are some extra features included on this. This is Synapse Films. They go all out, Uncle Bill. They really do with all their releases. Included, you get an audio commentary with the creators, Greg Austin and Michael Neal. There is a complete original 13-part web series included with audio commentary as well, and multiple interview featurettes with the cast and crew, music videos, promo material, and all that. Inside, you receive the Synapse product catalog so you can catch up on all of the best Synapse releases over the years on DVD and Blu-ray disc. But that is Infinite Santa Claus 8000. It is out right now, boys, from our good friends over at Synapse Films.
Hell yeah. Synapse Films. Blowing the dick out of your hands since 2020.
You know, the concept of this for an actual live action movie, though, is pretty damn cool. You'd have to have a massive budget to do it. But think post apocalyptic Santa, much like
Santa.
Mad Max, the Road Warrior, or whatever.
Do you remember that movie that was out not too long ago? It was called, it was pretty cool. Like it was a robot Santa. Like they made AI Santas and one of them went berserk and killed a bunch of people. That was a cool idea.
Yeah, that was like during COVID times, I think, right, when that one came out.
Yeah. It's on Shudder, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, something along those lines. But yeah, post-apocalyptic insanity, baby.
So here's one that I was surprised with, and I don't know, man. Like I could watch a documentary about people making fucking yarn, and I'd probably find it interesting. So, you know, that's just kind of the way that it is.
I would be interested in seeing how people would make yarn. I have no idea how that happens.
I'd say you'd be surprised. It'd be something special.
I always like that on like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood when they'd play those videos of how shit got made. That was like my favorite. I was like, oh, this is fascinating.
So this is Severin's big hard box, rigid ass box edition of the Scala.
Are you saying it's harder than Chinese calculus?
Yes. This is, it says, over the incredibly strange rise and fall of the world's wildest cinema and how it influenced a mixed up generation of weirdos and misfits. So the Scala was a theatre. I believe that's how they say it in Britain. This was a theatre, and it was like almost like a grindhouse theater would be the best way I could describe it, like on 42nd Street or something like that. And it was in a really, really bad part of London, I think, which King's Court, I believe, was the place that it was actually located in. And I think it was over a period of 20 years almost, they showed they showed the weirdest kind of selection of films that you can possibly imagine, including, you know, exploitation films, horror films, sexploitation films, pornos, anything like that that you can think of.
Yeah.
Like they would show. And this is a documentary about basically all of the kids that hung around at the time when the Scala, which was mostly in the 80s. So it says from 78 to 93. So, but most of like the, you know, main kind of
the best stuff.
Yeah. The main parts of the documentary center around the stuff that happened in the 80s. But it was just a hip kind of weird theater that was in this really low rent place that showed stuff all night long. So they had they would have a calendar of movies. Every day they would have a different like selection of movies. And usually they were like B movies, horror movies, exploitation, something like that. And then they would have like these, you know, all nighters where they would just show like up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then people would leave. So what this attracted was like hobos, punks, punk rockers, you know, from that time period, film nerds, like all this conglomeration of these different types of people would descend on this theater and watch all these movies. And they would have stuff like, you know, from everything you can think of, from like Abbott and Costello, you know, nights, to like Stanley Kubrick nights, to, You know, they would just have all these themes of different movies that
So
they
it's
would
kind of
show.
like what the drive-ins are doing today
Yes.
with, Friday the 13th marathons and slasher fests and, stuff like our buddies at the Mahoning are doing.
Yes. That's pretty much exactly like what it was like, except years and years before any of that really took place. Documentary itself is about an hour and a half. It's really, really fascinating though, man. Like I enjoy documentaries like this anyway. I'd never heard of this place. So I
Mm.
learned something completely new. And like they interviewed a bunch of people like John Waters and people whose films played there and stuff like that, as well as like a lot of the punks and things like that that were there around that time
Mm.
and kind of like what the place meant to them, as it was like the only place around that area where they could hang out at that time. And I just enjoy documentaries like this because it's just really like I like film. It's got that aspect to it. It's got the culture aspect to it, the societal aspect, all that stuff is like in the one thing. 13 hours of special features are on this. Fucking, you can like
Wow.
believe that.
Okay. Yeah, they
So,
go all out, man. Definitely severing with these documentary collections and everything.
so you've got, oh, I forgot to mention one thing too that was killer. Um, they had like long um horror film nights. So I forget what it was called. It was something like Shock Around the Clock or something like that.
Shock until you drop.
Shock T Drop, something like that. Um, and there was one in 1990 where John McNaughton, Brian Usna, Scott Spiegel, and a bunch of other like horror film directors showed up and spent like all night watching
Oh,
horror
wow.
films at this theater. So that
Cool.
was something else that they did too. Anyway, special features of this disc include audio commentary with the directors, introduction from the UK premiere, introduction to the Scala by director Michael Clifford, Scala Cinema, which is like I think a documentary in of itself, audio commentary for Scala Cinema, Scala programs from 78 to 93. So they made like these giant poster size like programs and they would put them outside, you know, to show like each day what films they had planned. And this is like every one of those collected and shows you like all of the different programming that they had
Hmm.
at the theater throughout
Where was
that whole
this
time.
theater located?
It was in London, I'm pretty sure. It was in what was it called? What did I just say a minute ago? King's Cross or something like that.
King's Cross,
It was something,
Brighton.
yeah, something like that. And let's see, extended interviews, outtakes, cartoons. Disc 2 is Scala Screen short films. Divide and Rule, Never, Dead Cat, The Mark of Lilith, Relax, Boobs a Lot, Kama Sutra Rides Again, Coping with Cupid, and On Guard. These are all short films. Disc 3, The Art of the Calendar, which is their calendar that they put this stuff on. Splatterfest Exhumed, which is the horror thing that I just mentioned. Scala Screen short films. Maniac 2, Mr. Robbie was one of them. Horror Show, Cleveland Smith, Bounty Hunter. And finally, the legendary H.J. Lewis Speaks, a 1989 Scala appearance by the Godfather of Gore.
Nice.
So,
So yeah,
there you
showcase
go.
the total package there. It's
Yeah.
really nice looking package from.
So, yeah, this is like really, it's embossed and it's really, really cool. Kind of like, you can't really see it that well in this, but like these are all kind of embossed and they kind of light up under the lights, if you will.
That's one thing that Severin Films definitely has improved on is their
Yeah.
packaging over the last couple of years for sure.
It's a quote on there by John Waters too. But there's some really, really wild stuff in this too, just talking about stuff that happened at this theater. Somebody jumped off the fucking roof and killed themselves. Like people run acid trips all the time. People were like getting in fights and banging and all kinds of stuff in the theater.
They're fighting and fucking at the same
Fighting and
time.
fucking. Yep. So check this out, man.
That's
Like,
a wild crowd.
it's just not, here's my problem with this. Like, it's not my problem with it. It's just a problem with it in general. The name, you don't really know what the fuck it is.
Right.
But like, if they would have named it anything else, like to let you know what kind of documentary it was, I think it would have done really, really well. But it's a really good one. I did want to show you this because I forgot about this completely, but it's fucking killer. It's probably one of the most interesting things I've seen in one of these releases. Going back to this Scala thing again.
Mm.
When you open it up, the disc,
Scala.
it looks real too. It's got like the ticket, the reprint of the ticket.
Huh.
where
is
you
pretty
had to
cool.
like
I
sign
wish
your name.
they would do more shit like that.
Yep. And it's also got, this is what I was talking about earlier that they used to do, a copy of one of their calendars, which I 100% cannot show on here because it's got boobies all over it. But
Kenneth.
like, it had like, this is the way that they were set up. Like on the back, like it would have like a program of all the stuff, and on the front it would have like a calendar. I can't unfortunately show the calendar.
Mm.
Well, actually, I can. I think if I just put my finger over this. Yeah, so
Put your finger over the titty, baby.
that's what it looked like. Like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4.
Cool.
Like it would show you the movies that they had planned.
And that was in like the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
78 to like 92 or 3. Yeah.
Sweet. So yeah, that is out now from Severn Films. Check it out. And I've actually got a couple of releases we'll talk about today from Arrow Video, and they are new re-releases. And I know a lot of people are kind of all up in arms about. I think Arrow and Scream Factory are also doing a lot of re-releases of past titles. 4K re-releases, and this is one of them. This is a movie that, as far as I can tell, we have never ever really reviewed on the show. It's one that I hadn't seen in many years since I was a little kid. I wasn't sure what to make of it now, but it was interesting to go back and check it out. We've got from, I think this is around 87 or 88, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark in 4K. Directed by, 4K, James Signorelli, the same guy that did Easy Money, the Rodney Dangerfield movie,
Good
Police
movie.
Academy 2, which is
Also a
fucking
good movie.
classic.
I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Yeah, and was a big part of Saturday Night Live around that time period as well. This is an interesting concept because Elvira was a TV icon at this point. They had always wanted to do a movie with her. She did a lot of those movie macabre and midnight movie stuff, a lot of stuff on MTV. She was one of the most famous faces in Hollywood at the time, and they waited a while to do this movie. Elvira come along in the early 80s, I think, and there was a lot of controversy around her too. That old haggard hua vampira was pissed off.
Haggard.
Pissed off. Elvira ripped her off, even though I'm pretty sure, there were gothic chicks way before Vampira, but it is what it is. But anyway, this movie is a PG-13 comedy. There's not much to it, really. That's probably the biggest downfall with Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. It is a lot of fun. The whole plot of this movie, if there is a plot, Elvira gets fired from her television gig at the station. This guy's wanting to get him a piece of gothic ice
No,
that bought the station, and Elvira ain't having none of it. So she's got this offer to come to Las Vegas to do her own stage show, kind of like a Flash Dance meets the Addams Family. Was the concept. And unfortunately, the producers need $50,000 in order to fund the project to get it started. Elvira, of course, does not have the money. I mean, she could have maybe done a few sexual favors from the TV station guy and got it, but didn't think of doing that at all.
No.
Of course, that wouldn't have been nice. But lucky her, she immediately finds out that she has inherited a fortune from an great aunt that she didn't even know exists. So she's going to this town in the middle of nowhere. I think the name of the town is Falwell. Isn't it Jerry Falwell?
yeah, yeah.
I think it was Falwell, Massachusetts is the name of the town. I'm pretty sure. I don't
That
think
would
I've
make
got it right
sense.
here.
Yeah.
But like it's a real, kind of like Bible Belt. If Elvira come to Prestonsburg or something, right? Especially back then, it was probably even more like this back then. And that's where the mansion is that she inherits. that she's fixing up, and all the locals are getting infatuated with her, you know, her assets and her bosom, if you will.
Yeah, baby.
And yeah, I mean that it's the town kind of turns on her at the end, and blah blah blah. Her evil uncle, she inherits the house, a poodle that she makes like a punk rock poodle. I don't know if you remember this.
I do.
And a book of recipes, which is actually a book of spells, which is what her evil uncle is wanting to get a hold of so he can rule all the world or whatever. This is just a weird freaking movie, man. Like, it's a comedy more than anything. There are a few horror elements in it. There's a couple of good horror gags in it.
Oh man, listen, I'm gonna tell you, I love Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I watched that like over and over and over again when I was a kid. Like, well, yeah, I guess I would have been a kid. Like, when did that movie come out?
I think it was like 87. Let me
Yeah, so I would
check.
say between then and like the early 90s, at least, is when I first found that movie. Like, it's the perfect vehicle for her
Oh yeah.
to do that shtick, man, which she does in the, when she talks over top of the horror films and stuff. Like, this was the perfect kind of thing for her to do that in. And she's up against a chick from Ferris Bueller. Like, that's the main, antagonist in the film is, I can't remember what her name is in the movie, but she's got the red hair.
1988.
Okay. Yeah, she's like the main one because when she moves into this town, like they all hate her because she dresses slutty and they're all conservative and like,
There's a lot of stuff that's in this that would not be allowed today.
well, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
There's like her eating a hot dog and she drops the wiener in between her tits, like mustard and everything all over it.
What I'm saying is, though, is like, I mean, it's a perfect vehicle for her.
Yes.
And the nostalgia factor, I understand if you watched it a lot and everything. But as far as an actual movie, it's like, I don't know, man. It doesn't really have a plot to it, really. I mean, it's kind of just her doing her thing the entire time, which maybe that's the point, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a Elvira version of like Pee-wee's Big Adventure or something. Like, I mean, it's really not about anything in particular, just kind of like following her around as she gets into shit.
Right. And it just seems like once they get to that town, and it's just kind of like, okay, we're there, right? But it's a PG-13 comedy. And the guy that did it, man, I mean, definitely, Police Academy 2 is one of the best of the whole franchise. Easy Money is known as one of Dangerfield's best movies, I think.
Who is the guy that did it? What's his?
James Signorelli is the director's name. And this is right around the same time period. This is still in the 80s. So he was still pretty much I think he was doing Saturday Night Live at that point. The writing on Saturday Night Live. But there's a 4K remaster of this. So I had the actual retail version of the Blu-ray, and they re-released. I just have the check disc on the new 4K, but it is the 4K. It looks fine, but a movie like this, I don't know how great a movie like this could look. You see what I'm saying? Like, this is not, to me, this isn't one that like, oh man, I have to get Elvira, Mistress of the Dark in 4K. Now, there's some scenes in it that really pop and look great, but the majority of the movie, it's like you're really watching a Blu-ray. So I'm sure that they'll get some people to upgrade, and people that haven't purchased it yet will definitely want to get the 4K. I mean, there's no question there. But as far as rebuying it, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people, unless you're a mega Elvira fan, would be into it, because it's exactly the same artwork and everything as the Blu-ray, the same special features as well. It is a new 4K restoration. If I didn't mention that, there is 2017 audio commentary with the director and our good friend Tony Timpone, who was the Fangoria managing editor when this movie came out.
Yeah.
The audio commentary with Patterson Lundquist of Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.com. He's the webmaster there, and he was also the judge of the U.S. TV show Search for the next Elvira. You remember that shit?
I do remember that now that
What
you
the
say
hell
that.
happened
Yeah,
with that?
I don't know. It's very
Archival
briefly on though. Yeah.
archival audio commentary with Cassandra Peterson and Edie McClurg. One thing that I noticed though when I was watching this is Cassandra Peterson, for a 70-year-old woman, is still fantastic looking. Jesus Christ. Could you imagine being face to face with her in costume in the 80s, though?
No.
Jesus Christ.
You realize she dated like Elvis? Like, there's so many celebrities, like big name celebrities that she dated. I know that like Paul McCartney wanted like to bang her, but she was married at the time, and like so he wouldn't do it.
Elvira, come on. I want to slip
Hey.
you the potato.
It's like we were out there with Elvira, and I wanted to stick my willy in her, but she wouldn't let me.
I mean, it's bloody Elvira, it is.
That's like Oz. He's bloody
Well,
Elvira.
They're from the same fucking area, though. They talk about the same. Tons of other special features on this. Making of Mistress the Dark. But these are all the special features I think that was on the Blu-ray. So you got to take that to effect. Arrow always does a fantastic job on these releases, though. This one came out late last month. Arrowvideo.com. Check it out. Elvira, Mistress the Dark in 4K, Uncle Bill. 4K.
Blow your fucking dick out of your hand.
Yeah.
Are you ready for something that should not have ever existed and should definitely not exist as a remastered Blu-ray?
Are you ready for Freddy?
No, but I'm asking you, are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is 1991's The Toxic Crusaders, the series, the animated fucking cartoon series from
It's
Trauma.
on Blu-ray for the first time from Trauma.
It's been newly digitally restored and remastered, and this is a Blu-ray edition of the 13-episode cartoon that premiered in 1991.
Oh my God.
I don't know why, man, but I never thought in a million years that I would ever see this like on a fucking Blu-ray for some reason.
Yeah. How long did that show last? Like, I don't recall
One
it.
season.
Okay.
It was one season. I'm pretty sure it was a total of 13 episodes. And like, for some reason, and I mean, I can kind of understand why, because there were very few shows like this that took like a horror film or a really graphic film and made it into a cartoon series. I can think of like RoboCop did that, Rambo did that. And then this one, those are the three I can think of like right off the top of my head that were made into like children's cartoons. For some reason, I'll never figure this out about how this exists.
Yeah, because they had a Toxic Crusaders NES game as well. How in the hell did that ever happen?
I don't know, man. But the thing I remember most about this is the figures. I don't know if you had any of them back in the day, but they
I
had
heard
like
about them. I remember. Yeah,
I used to have some of them, like a whole line of this, like shows, figures, and stuff. Anyway, it
was the peak of Trauma's popularity, evidently.
It really was. Like this had to be. This is from Trauma, Trauma.com, Trauma Team Entertainment, all that stuff. Trauma Team Official. This was not at all, I guess, other than like the main theme of the movie was not at all like the movies, because how could it be, man? Like those movies were like intensely graphic, and this was more of like, do you remember for a period of time there, like they had all those like eco-conscious like cartoons that came out, like
Captain Planet
and stuff like that. Well, this was like that. I think this was trying to like take that as like an inspiration. It's from Fred Wolf. The executive producer of this show is Fred Wolf, man. Do you remember Fred Wolf? Like he did every fucking TV show that came out in the 80s. Like anything you can think of, he was like the producer of for a long, long period of time. So he produced, I'll just give you like a brief rundown here. Alvin and the Chipmunks, the California Raisins, DuckTales, the Flintstones, the New Adventures of Speed Racer, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Did I say that? No. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Yogi Bear, Puff the Magic Dragon. Like, so he was like a big producer for stuff like this. And animator and things like that as well. So the setting is Tromaville, just like in the movie. The only difference is like there's really goofy like cartoon villains and shit in this. There's Dr. Killamoff. That's a real villain. Psycho is another villain. Psycho was voiced by Michael Pollard, the guy from
Okay.
Scrooged
Yeah.
and from a bunch of movies like that. Sarzosta. And then they're all like these little cockroach like creatures from this planet called Smogula. So that's the basic theme of the thing. Like they come down and they're trying to like wreak havoc on Tromaville and cause all these eco disasters and things like that. And the Toxic Avengers, or in this case the Toxic Crusaders, I mean, are trying to like fight them off basically.
What I'm curious about with this, though, you said, what is it, 13 episodes?
Yeah.
How did in 13 episodes they get action figures and a Nintendo game?
Dude, I don't know. And how did it
That's
become
so
like
odd.
it's become like a cult? I guess, like I'm telling you, the only reason I can think of is because it's so wild that it exists. Like that, it's like a cult classic at this point.
It's weird. It is odd.
But it does have like the female love interest of Toxie's in it, like as his sidekick, the blonde. And then it's got like, he's got his own little team of the Toxic Crusaders. So you got like Toxie, No Zone, Major Disaster, Headbanger, and Junkyard.
I wonder if like did Toxic Crusaders come on after like Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats or something, or what channel did this air? Like I don't remember it.
I can't remember
being
either.
on.
It was on though, man. I do remember it being on.
Okay.
Hold on, let me see if I can figure out a channel it was aired on.
Like it was Inspector Gadget, Captain N, the Game Master, Toxic Crusaders. I mean, I just don't recall it. I remember hearing about it years later, oddly enough. And then the Nintendo game, which I was like, is that for real? They made like a Trauma Nintendo game?
Yeah.
But that's how popular this stuff was in the 80s. It's interesting.
I can't right off like find where, like what channel it aired on, but somebody would probably know. If I had more time to do research, I would know. But anyway, you get the idea. And one of the most killer things about this show to me was there's this little pet in it that's like Toxie's like sidekick pet. Its name is Blobby. It's a little blob.
Blobby, of course.
But
yeah, is this the first time it was released on Blu-ray? I know they remastered it and Troma has it out. It just recently came out again.
It's the first time I can remember it being released. I mean, it might have been on DVD, but I'm not sure. I just know that it's killer. It actually looks surprisingly good. It's really, really like when you remaster a animated cartoon, it usually tends to go pretty well on Blu-ray, I've noticed. So like it looks a whole shitload better than it actually should. I don't understand its existence. I mean, it's awesome for like if you have a nostalgia connection to it and stuff.
It's just very like if you go back to the Toxic Avenger and you see the type of movie that is.
Yeah.
And then fast forward it. Was this before any of the sequels came out? What year was this
Well, it
cartoon?
was 91.
Okay, so there was the first one I think may have been out, or
I think so,
the first and the second one were out. So it's just weird. That was a weird progression there to just do like a kid's cartoon of the Toxic Avenger.
I mean, it's kind of like ingenious if you can get that done, man. I mean, can you imagine how much this like promoted those movies and Trauma in general? Like to have a kids cartoon that was actually pushed through the moon too. I don't know how, but yeah. But the special features on this particular disc from Trauma include new introduction by Lloyd Kaufman, original Toxic Crusaders toy commercials, feature-length documentary about the making of the Toxic Crusaders video game from Retroware, long lost archival footage of your favorite mop welding mutant and bonus cartoons. So that's the Toxic Crusaders, the complete
Baklava. Yeah.
series edition.
From MVD and Trauma Entertainment. Check it out.
Yep.
And another one that we got in today, or another one that we got in for this week, is it's also from Cleopatra Entertainment, MVD Visual. It's another Christmas horror, Uncle Bill. We want to take a look at Silent Bite on Blu-ray disc, baby.
My life.
Silent Bite,
Woo!
if you will. It just came out not too awful long ago on Blu-ray from Cleopatra and MVD, baby. And this one I hadn't heard many people talk about. I didn't know a whole lot about it. It is set on Christmas Eve, and a gang of bank robbers have some sort of deal with this maitre d' at this hotel in the middle of nowhere after they rob a bank for lots of money to keep them down in low key. They want to stay away from the authorities.
Of course.
They've got $1 million, like a couple big blocks of $100 bills. I don't know how much money they had, but they had a lot, and they're kind of laying low until the authorities, I don't know how long. How long do people look for bank robbers?
Pretty much forever because it involves money.
So
Anything that involves money, you'll just keep looking for them.
they're at this hotel during a snowstorm, and little do they know that these bank robbers here are not the most dangerous individuals in the hotel. There is a horde of blood-sucking bitches, vampires, that are also in the hotel, and it's a fang versus bullet battle, and on Christmas Eve, and that is Silent Bite. This is a very, very low budget movie. Has that Vidmark home video feel to it, the early 90s. Technically, it's not the best made. The audio, this is the weird thing. They usually, when you get something from some of these bigger studios, technically it's going to look great, sound great, and everything else. The audio, at least on my player, was going in and out. It was almost like it was muting during certain parts. It was like it was editing. They were editing parts of it out. So it was very odd. It was very strangely edited. Sometimes you got to be honest. This is not very good. This was, I think the concept was good. The idea behind Silent Bite could have worked had they had good enough budget, some good makeup effects involved, some good death scenes and all that. They didn't have any of that. The death scenes in this, there was like little to no special effects for any of the death sequences. There's a lot of hot ladies in this, but you really don't get to see anything, which is another no. I mean, what's the point of even having the women in it if they're not going to show their goods, Uncle Bill? I mean, maybe that's being a little sexist. But come on, I'm being honest with you people tonight.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do a horror film like that, you might as well. So you didn't like it? You would not recommend it?
No. Parts of the movie look good. I like the atmosphere. They're stuck in this massive hotel on a winter's night, snowstorm or whatever. It has good intention, baby. But let me tell you something. It didn't really pan out for me in this movie. This is a little bit of a longer movie as well. I think that it's close to 2 hours in length. At least it felt like it. I don't know how long it was exactly, but it felt really long. There's not really any special features on this. A trailer, image slideshow, and all that. Again, good concept. The execution of the concept, not so good. But if you're interested, MVD Visual and Cleopatra Home Entertainment have this thing out. Now, it is a new Christmas horror that you can check out. Another one, Silent Bites. Silent bat.
Holy bud.
Have you holy bat?
All right, here's the last one I got though. And this one, I've actually been looking forward to seeing for a while because it's from one of my favorite directors,
Uh-oh.
Billy Freakin, Hurricane Billy. We've got Kino Lorber's edition of 2003's The Hunted with Tommy Lee Jones, Benicio del Toro, and as I said before, directed by William Friedkin. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I've seen this one a while, I guess back when it came out. It's really good.
So this is surprising because like William Friedkin is one of those guys where usually when I see a movie that he does, I can tell that it's his movie. It's just he just has his own. It's like Carpenter, like they just have their own style that I can pretty much immediately tell what it is. But this is like a studio movie, so you really can't like tell that it's him. Like he is not really like in this movie. I mean, it's a good movie, but it's not.
This was kind of a hit movie too, wasn't it? Didn't he get nominated for like Academy Award for this?
I don't think. Hold on, let me see.
Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah, you might be because I think this movie actually lost money. Yeah, on a budget of 55 million, it made 46 million.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't a huge flop or anything, but it wasn't a huge hit or anything like they wanted it to be either. It's a pretty basic story, but it's actually like a pretty good story because of mostly Benicio del Toro. Like I like Tommy Lee Jones, okay and shit, but he's just like, I don't know, like he's just okay to me. Like people mark out over him, but I just never thought he was that great of an actor. But now Benicio in this movie is really good. So Benicio is basically a special ops guy who worked on covert missions and for the government and killed a bunch of people that needed to be killed, essentially. And
By death.
he killed by death, yeah. And eventually he kind of like wants away from that whole racket. So he goes and he like leaves and hides out and basically falls off the grid. Okay. They can't find him. And they send, the government sends what they call sweepers, people that are trying to find rogue agents like this and kill them out to like find him. But he summarily like kills all of them. And so they have to send in for the number one guy who you guessed it is Tommy Lee fucking Jones.
You don't mess with Tommy Lee Jones.
Who's like 65 in this movie already, but he can kick ass and take names and throw knives and shit.
Did he retire? I haven't seen him in anything in a long time.
He must have. The last movie I remember really seeing him in, no, he was in that one movie that they show clips from all the time where like, I can't think of the name of it. He's like taking revenge for his son or whatever. Anyway, No Country for Old Men. He was in that one. That was like one that's been 10, 15 years ago now though. But he's been in a couple of movies since then. Anyway, so Tommy Lee Jones comes in and he like captures him and is basically trying to convince him, like, listen, like, don't say anything about anything that you've done or don't, try to bring attention to any of these missions or anything like that. Cause that's his whole kind of point. Benicio del Toro is to kind of like expose the government. So once the government finds out, these agents, FBI agents find out that that's what he wants to do, they're going to kill him. So they like drive off to kill him. He kills all of them, of course, which sets up the final big battle, which is he's back out in the woods. And of course, Tommy Lee Jones' ass has to go up there with a fucking knife made out of like stone, baby. Hand the
A knife dipped in shit.
Knife dipped in piss and shit. Yeah. No. And like they have this final showdown. And I won't give it away, but let's just say movies of this time period, you usually get a happy ending.
Yeah, Kino Lorbert's part of the Studio Classics line. Kino is one of my absolute favorite labels. And one of the big reasons, too, is, man, no nonsense. You get a nice slipcover, the original artwork most of the time, great transfers. The extras aren't really as vast as a lot of other companies. But guess what? I don't watch most of these extras. Do you, Uncle Bill?
No, Not generally speaking. No,
If it's
I
a
may watch
making of
that.
documentary or something new like that, that's really cool in certain movies. But
Oh,
it's a 2 disc edition there. It looks like a Blu-ray and a 4K.
yep.
And their transfers, I mean, I haven't watched this one, but I'm sure
It's
it's badass.
it's killer. It really is. And the good thing about this movie for this particular transfer in 4K is that most everything in this movie are like landscape shots out in the woods and the wilderness and stuff like that, which do really, really well for like this kind of HDR and HD stuff and Dolby Vision and all that, which is this actually has. So you got audio commentary by the director, freaking, which I'm gonna have to watch that. 4 featurettes on the making of the movie. 4 featurettes, deleted scenes, and a theatrical trailer. 2003's The Hunted. It's a very good film. It's a good action film. It's of that era of like when they were making those. They don't make films like this anymore because nobody goes and sees films like this anymore. But like
No,
with the action stars like Tommy Lee Jones and stuff, and this is like a really good
it's a lost
example.
art for sure. Yeah, so that is out now from Kino Lorber. It's part of their Studio Classics line. You be sure to check it out. And the last movie that we've got this week, and this will definitely be kind of the, you and I can go back and forth with this one because we have both seen this movie numerous times. Oddly enough, the last time that I bought this movie and had it on any form of physical media was the DVD release, which came out over 20 years ago. But this has always been one of my favorite movies, especially from this director, and we'll get to talking about that a little bit later. But the new 4K remaster of A Simple Plan, Sam Raimi's,
Ooh.
possibly his best technically made movie. I mean, I don't know. I was going back and forth there. Great movie. I was excited to check this out because it had been a few years since I'd seen it. And there was a period there, man, and I think it was in the mid to late 90s where we were just, I don't know, spoiled on a bunch of great, like thriller drama, sort of heist movies almost. And this is
Yeah.
one of them, man. Bill Paxton, the cast in this is outstanding as well. But the basic plot of this is very simple. It's a simple plot for a movie called The Simple Plan. Two brothers, Hank and Jacob, played by Bill Paxton and Billy Bob Thornton, baby, along with a simpleton drunkard friend by the name of Lou, played by actor's name is Brent Briscoe, who was freaking great as well. Like
The Briscoe brothers.
character actor. Yeah, he was the long lost brother, Brent.
Yeah.
While on a hunting trip in the frigid, I think it's December, northeast or northwest. I don't know where they're at. I don't know if it said, but it don't matter. They discover a crashed airplane, small aircraft, and they're like, "Holy shit! What the hell, man? What's going on in here?" And discover the pilot, deceased, had been there a while. He became crow food, and a big garbage bag full of cash. How much cash and how the hell you could fit that much cash in a garbage bag, I don't know. I would love to try. $4.4 million
In a garbage bag.
in
Damn.
a garbage bag. One garbage bag, yes. And they make the plan then and there. We're going to hide this money. We're going to keep it in a secure location until this body is found. Once it's found, if nobody is asking about the money, we split it 3 ways. We go our separate ways. We get out of town. And that was their simple plan. But of course, greed gets in the way, the trust issues and everything else, and it all goes to pure hell for them. I think the real stars of this movie is not only the actors, which you talked about, Billy Bob Thornton and Bill Paxton are great together. Bridget Fonda is also in this and does a great job as I think it's Bill Paxton's wife, Hank's wife. But the direction in this too, man, like it's almost like what would have happened had Sam Raimi not done those fucking Spider-Man movies after this. Like, what kind of a career would
It's a
he
fair
have had?
point. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I'm like,
So,
damn, this
what
is
year
like
was
a
this?
98,
Really? For
98.
some reason, I thought that movie was much or much earlier than that. So yeah, you're right. Like he would have immediately done like Spider-Man. I wish he would have never done that, to be honest. Like I feel like he could have had a really
I think like the only reason he did is the money. They were just throwing some crazy money at him. You can't really, you know, blame him for that. But as far as as a creative filmmaker, man, I think that this, especially in Hollywood, this had to have been the peak of that for him. But of course, superheroes and big bucks get in the way.
yeah.
But this is a great. I've always loved this movie. I think I originally saw it on like Showtime or HBO back in the day, and at that point in time, I didn't put two and two together and didn't realize it was the same fucking guy that did the Evil Dead movies, which is weird. I mean, it's odd, but I think that Sam Raimi had progressed so much as a filmmaker. Like he was just each film, he was leaps and bounds better. It seemed like.
True. I
That
think that he is also one of the most imitated directors, especially through the 2000s that there were. Um, a lot of the things he created early on, like a lot of the camera angles and cinematography and like camera gimmicks that he created are still used to this day.
I know a lot of people argue about some of his early horror movies. The Evil Dead's a classic, there's no doubt. But if you look at technical filmmaking and just his finest overall film, like I don't know, man. I think it's a simple plan. I can't think of anything from beginning to end that's as good as this, as well made as this. The acting is great, cinematography's great. This 4K edition looks fucking phenomenal, man. Like there's a handful, and again, we get these check discs from Arrow, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But there's a handful of these releases that I watch where I'm like, I've got to fucking buy this at some point. This looks phenomenal. It's a killer movie. And it is, this isn't a re-release. This is something that Arrow put out. Lots of brand new extra features on this as well. New audio commentaries with film critics Glenn Kenny and Feynman Smith Neem.
Okay.
Glenn
Yeah,
Kenny.
yeah.
And production designer Patricia von Brandenstein with filmmaker Justin Beam. Those are good buddy Justin
Yeah.
Beam's in this. Of Ice and Men, a new filmed interview with cinematographer Alar Cavillo. Standing Her Ground, a new filmed interview with actor Becky Ann Baker. Dead of Winter, a new filmed interview with actor Chelsea Ross. On-set interviews with Paxton Thornton and others, and Raimi. Theatrical trailer, behind-the-scenes footage. One of the sad things about this too, like there's not a whole lot of people. Like Bill Paxton passed away a few years ago, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He's no longer with us. The guy that played Lou passed away the same year. Billy Bob Thornton, I guess, is a little bit too big of a name for them to get. Sam Raimi's the same way. I mean, it's unfortunately they don't have anybody hardly. Bridget Fonda's a fucking recluse. Uh, you know,
Have
so
you seen Billy Bob Thornton nowadays, by the way? Motherfucker, like going around dressing like Prince, like circa
I
1990s.
don't know what's going on with Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah, he's got like an earring that's going through his toboggan and his ear. That's
Yeah,
fat.
he's
I'm like, what the fuck is that? I've never seen that before, but he's coming up with his own fashion.
people have gotten like too much into Hollywood when they start wearing scarves and shit. Like that's a big sign. Like if you're wearing like, a jacket and a big fucking like scarf,
Mhm.
it's not a good sign.
Not a
for
good
you.
look, Billy Bob.
No.
Come on, you're an old man. I think he wears like women's jeans and shit too, which is fine. That's actually fine. It's 2024. You can do what you want to.
Okay, you pull that one out. Yeah. You can wear acid wash denims if you want. Fuck it.
This is a simple plan, though, man. Like, okay, big fan of Bill Paxton, big fan of Billy Bob Thornton as an actor, maybe not as a fucking person anymore. But Sam Raimi, possibly his finest movie. This is great release. This is a killer release. This is a high recommendation for me. Not only as a movie, but as a 4K. It looks phenomenal. It's a great one for sure. And it recently, I think it came out in the last week or so. So you will want to check it out. It's a perfect one to watch around the wintertime. You got the flurry in the air, baby. It's a snowy atmosphere throughout a simple plan.
Ooh.
Check it out. All right, so I guess that concludes episode 5 of Dead Pit is Watching. And we want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year if we don't talk to you until then. But we got lots more stuff planned. Some releases from Kino. More releases from Severin and Arrow coming up. Second Sight Films possibly. So lots of stuff coming up. Definitely check out all the reviews. We've got timestamps for all of them. We're High Tech Rednecks, Mayberry meets Star Trek. And we will catch you guys next time at DeadPit.com. I want all these people to click everything they're supposed to click.
You haven't been liking them, you haven't been subscribing to them, you haven't clicked the bell or notification or anything like that.
Folks, why don't you click the like button?
Do you hate us? Do you not want to see us succeed?
Why don't you click the heart button?
Is this something that you have against our particular show?
Why don't you subscribe?
You should click on one of them buttons right now if you want us to continue to bring greatness into your life.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last South on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Special thanks goes out to our supporters on Patreon. Do you know what kind of stuff you can get on Patreon, Uncle Bill, starting at only $1 a month?
What's that?
Access to every Dead Pit show since 2005. We got almost 200 fan commentaries that we've done over the decades.
Here's what other fucking Patreons do. They're like, hey, give us money and then we'll let you see a video early that we're going to release like a fucking week from now, and then that's all we're going to give you. Meanwhile, we have a literal jukebox full of songs, thousands of reviews. I don't even know how many shows are up on there now that we've done over the years.
Hundreds of thousands.
You need to figure this out now and subscribe to us on Patreon and YouTube and Instagram. And help us to 1 million. The road to 1 million subscribers starts today.
So DeadPit on Patreon.com. Join today. Tiers start at only $1, but I'd recommend at least the $10 tier.
You can do 50. The stock market's crashing around us, folks, but send us money.